Our next question comes from Josh Rogers.
We'll stick with matters constitutional and specifically the Supreme Court. Congressman Custer, plenty of people believe the Supreme Court has become too political. Do you share that view? And if you do, what could be done about it?
Well, I particularly share that view recently because the Senate has just put a essentially political operative onto the Supreme Court in Mr. Kavanaugh. I don't think he showed the temperament or the demeanor to serve on the Supreme Court. This is a lifetime position, and there's no elected position that's a lifetime position. To me, we need to impose the highest moral standard imaginable for people serving on our courts on all levels, but particularly the Supreme Court. And we shouldn't have put a campaign operative who was involved in the Bush administration and going years back, given some of the statements that he made during that second hearing. Nobody in that room was thinking about the Clintons except him. And I think it's a shame. And I think that litigants coming before the Supreme Court would really question whether or not he would be impartial.
Mr. Negron, do you think the court's become too political? And if so, what would you do about it?
Absolutely. And I think in the last two justices, it has become political because the Democrats don't control the House. And they're trying to establish law in the judicial branch. That's the wrong way to do it. You know, if you want to go ahead and pass laws, then you got to win the House, and they haven't been able to do that. You know, you don't litigate from the bench. I mean, you don't pass laws from the bench, excuse me. And I think what we saw in the Kavanaugh hearings was a travesty. You know, they went after an individual that had an impeccable judicial record. Impeccable. And as a matter of fact, the young lady they brought in, I thought was a pawn by the Democratic Party as well. And I was ashamed. And I have people that live all over this world, and they looked at me like, what has happened to the United States? Look, everybody has a right to a fair hearing, and it wasn't a criminal trial at all. But what we did, and even Congresswoman Custer was outside those doors fanning the flames to saying, you know, no Kavanaugh, no Kavanaugh. That's not who we are. That's not who we are as folks from New Hampshire. I think the people we send down to Washington are those to represent us. And I can tell you, over the 27,000 doors I knocked on in the primary and the general, nobody, not one person ever said that that's the way we should treat not only a Supreme Court justice, but any human being that's a U.S. citizen.
Congresswoman Custer, you were invoked. You have 30 seconds.
Well, I would simply say that I think Dr. Christine Blasey Ford was very compelling in her testimony. And look, none of us were there. We don't know what happened 36 years ago, but it goes to the question of demeanor and temperament, the way Judge Kavanaugh handled himself in that second hearing. I just don't think that he handled himself in a way that I, as an attorney, bringing a litigant before the court, would feel comfortable in his attitude toward women, in his attitude toward survivors of sexual assault.
And 30 seconds. Thank you.
I'm good. Thank you.
Quick follow-up here. Would either of you support expanding the number of justices on the Supreme Court to something higher than 9, since there is no constitutionally mandated number, Representative Negron?
No, I think 9 is a good number. You know, you have to have an odd number, right? So it could be 5, 7, 9, 11. I think 9 has shown that it has worked very well in our history of up until the time we got up to 9. So I wouldn't support adding another justice, or you'd have to add 2. You can't have a deadlock. So I believe that 9 right now is the right number to be with.
Congresswoman Custer?
9 is fine.
Okay.